Hi everybody, this is Peyton from Sovereign Self Tarot. Today is officially my first video, so y'all go easy on me. Today I wanted to do a VR to Brian Cormack Carr, who had posted a hashtag a few days ago called hashtag Tarot Tools Trio. And what this tag is dealing with is if you had to leave town or go on a trip where you had to be able to bring a limited number of tarot related tools with you, what you would select. And he stipulated that you have 3 decks, 3 books, and 3 spreads that you would utilize along with one other wild card item. So today I'm going to go over what my choices would be, so thanks for watching. First, for my decks, I tried to pick 3 that I thought would just resonate with me the most, the ones that I really didn't want to be without. For those of us who have a number of decks, it's kind of difficult to pick which ones you want. You're connected in some way to all of them. But I really wanted to choose the ones that I thought I would utilize the most in a general sense, as well as the ones that I just know for me I'm going to reach for again and again. So the first one is going to be pretty much no surprise to anybody who is a serious tarot reader, and that's going to be the SmithWait Centennial in a 10. I have both the 10 and the standard size edition, and if you're looking at a travel situation, the 10 is probably going to be the easiest just from a logistical standpoint. This deck is probably what I would call my all-arounder. It's the one that I know that I can go to for any type of question, any circumstance, any topic, and it's going to give me a spot-on reading every time. If you're not familiar with this deck for any reason, these are the backings. It's the light blue-gray back with the Tudor rose and Pamela's signature. This is just a really, really lovely deck. It's the original Pamela Coleman Smith artwork, just with some coloration differences. It's a little bit deeper in color, so if you are familiar with the pretty common US Games version of this deck, the plaid backs, this one has a slightly more tea-stained sepia tone type coloration to it. So it's a little easier on the eyes if the US Games plaid back version is one that does not appeal to you. That one doesn't bother me so much simply because it's the deck that I learned on. I'm used to it. I've been reading with that deck for about 25 years, so I've sort of gotten used to the yellow. But my favorite version is the Centennial version just because I really like that color scheme. It feels a little more vintage, a little older. I really like the card stock with the 10 version as well as with the standard version. But if I'm looking at a travel situation and I've got to reach for a Rider-Waite deck, then this is going to be the one I go for. My second deck is Tarot of the Hidden Realm, which is by Barbara Moore with the artwork by Julia Jeffries, who, if you're not familiar with her, you can find her artwork under the Stone Maiden on Etsy. These are the backings, sort of a gray Celtic knotwork sort of feel to it. This deck is really intensely personal for me. It's one that I bonded with immediately the first time that I saw it. A lot of people have trouble, from what I understand, connecting to this deck because the artwork is fairly limited in terms of the background. It's given you mostly faces, but to me this makes for a really intimate deck, and it's one that gives you a lot of emotional impact. When I read with this deck, it's like I'm having a conversation with these people. These faces, they talk to you. It's a very responsive deck. I've never had any problem for myself reading different questions with this deck. But this is a deck that I don't read for clients with. This one belongs exclusively to me. There's just something really magical and really deep about this deck. Oh, that world card. This is one of my favorite world cards. I never have a problem connecting with this deck just because it feels like the energies are always those of somebody giving me really, really good advice. Um, I trust it, and it's a deck that I really don't think I'll ever be able to part with. I don't see myself being without that deck. And so if I were having to choose, it's going to be one of the ones that comes along with me. My last deck is very similar in terms of feel to the Tarot of the Hidden Realm, but has a really different voice. And that is the Wildwood Tarot. Most everybody is familiar with this one by John Matthews, the artwork by Will Worthington. This deck is like, the best way I can describe this deck is it's like a wise grandfather. If you are really connected to nature, and if you're drawn towards decks that are very green oriented, very pagan in their feel, if you resonate with sort of a shamanic type practice, then this is a deck that I think you would be able to work with. The artwork is just stunning, obviously. Will Worthington is an amazing artist. But this deck is just, it's wise. That's the best way I can describe the voice. It just has things it wants to tell you. That Sun card. I turn to this deck when I have deep questions that I need to ask. Now, I've found that this deck will read for any kind of circumstance, really any question. But for me, I tend to gravitate more towards this deck when I have something serious to ask. It's excellent for shadow work. It's excellent for sort of digging in deep on questions where you really want somebody who's wise and unbiased, somebody who's going to give you a really strong voice, a really straightforward voice, but a voice that's supportive and not necessarily unnecessarily harsh. It's a deck that I use for a lot of different circumstances, but I find that time and time again, if I really want a serious, in-depth look at an issue, that's going to be the deck that I turn to. And so if I had to select a deck to come with me on a trip out of all of my decks that I really wanted to trust, then that's going to be the deck that I pick. For my 3 books, you're probably going to notice a theme. First is going to be The Holistic Tarot by Benebell Wynn. This book is a hoss. If you're not familiar with Benebell, she is an outstanding source of information. You can look her up. She's on benebellwynn.com. If you are looking for an all-around resource guide to anything tarot related, that book is going to get you the information that you need. It covers keywords. It has a lot of historical information. It is an excellent book whether you are a beginner level reader or whether you've been at reading for quite a while. It's going to touch on something for every skill level. So if I just wanted one all-around resource for tarot, that's going to be my go-to. My second choice is not necessarily a tarot book, but for me it is related, and that is my 2018 Metaphysicians Day Planner, also by Benebell Wynn. If you are not familiar with this particular book, I know there are a lot of reviews, a lot of videos up on YouTube from folks who have this. I'm not going to go through the inside of mine simply because it's filled in with a lot of personal information. But this is a combination of a regular day planner journal format combined with a lot of metaphysical type information, tarot keywords, correspondences, a lot astrological information. So if that's something that interests you, this is something that's going to enable you to do planning ahead for tarot. It's going to give you space on your day-to-day for you to jot down observations, tarot readings, pertinent information that you want to kind of carry through your day or maybe through your week. There is built into this planner a reading space for you to do the year ahead reading, and then an area for you to go back month to month and reflect on what that reading was and how it applied to your life during that time. So not only is it indispensable for me in terms of just a planner standpoint, but the fact that the metaphysical information is so integrated into it, it's just one resource that I wouldn't want to be without. And my last book, because I'm obviously on a trip and planning on having fun, I'm going to take the Tarot Coloring Book by Teresa Reed. For those who are not familiar, Teresa Reed, she's also called the Tarot Lady. And this book is full of Rider-Waite-Smith reference information. If you are a beginner particularly, and you're just learning the cards, this is going to give you an opportunity to go card by card on a really large image, kind of get an idea of what's in there, the symbolism, the colors, and she goes page by page, card by card, and gives you background information on each card, and some about the color symbolism, some about the items that you're going to find pictured in the card. So if you're a learner, this is an opportunity for you to really dive deep into a lot of the symbolic elements of the cards. And if you're somebody like me who is not necessarily a new reader, but who just really likes to color, then this is a good way to combine two passions at once. So a lot of fun, really a lot of fun. Now for my spreads, honestly, I typically do not utilize spreads frequently, especially if I'm reading for myself. Now, if I'm reading for somebody else or a client, I'll probably steer towards something a little bit more structured just because I feel like that helps a client understand a little bit more about what you're getting out of the card. It helps them put the reading together a little bit more systematically, and it helps the information come across a little bit clearer. For myself, I tend not to do that. I'm a little bit more of a free-form reader, but I do have a couple of go-tos, and that would be what I would take with me. First is what I call the sentence spread. A lot of people will probably just call it a free-form, but for me, it's going to be 5 cards, and I read them as a sentence. So I just look at context. What do those 5 cards tell me? It's a really quick and easy way to kind of get the high points of a particular question, and it's quick and easy to read. So just a 5-card, what I call a sentence. Second, surprisingly to me, would probably be the good old Celtic Cross. Now, like I said, I don't use a lot of spreads for myself, and I could probably count on one hand the number of times in my life that I've used the Celtic Cross for myself. But if you want a tried and true overall look at a particular situation, it's difficult to beat. It really does hit all of the high points. It's easy to explain. It's laid out in a way that's really visually appealing. It's easy for most people to identify exactly what you're talking about. So whether I'm reading for myself or somebody else, it's an easy go-to. It's recognizable and doesn't take a lot of effort. The last spread is actually a spread that I designed for myself, and I use this when I do it with 3 specific decks. I use my Wildwood Tarot, and I use 2 Oracle decks with it, which I know Oracle is a little bit outside the parameter of the question. But this is a spread that I go to. I call it the Green Road, and I use the Wildwood Tarot along with the Celtic Tree Oracle, and this is the one by Sherilyn Hidalgo that's illustrated by Jimmy Manton. And also with it, I use the Druid Animal Oracle by Philip and Stephanie Carr that's also illustrated by Will Worthington. Now, for me, this spread, it's kind of an examination of where you are in certain circumstance, and then kind of the as above and so below aspects. And I use the oracles for those to support. But if you were on a trip where you didn't have an oracle deck with you, you could always utilize the tarot or another deck of tarot to pull for those particular slots. It just depends on how you wanted to use it. But this is my spread, the Green Road spread. And so you can see you've got right here, the road. I use the Wildwood Tarot for that. So I use the 5 cards to give you sort of an overview of where you are on the journey on a particular given topic, something specific that you're looking for. And then I have the sky and the ground. So what's above you and what is supporting you on a more grounded earthly basis. So for the sky, I use the Celtic Tree Oracle, and for the ground, I use the Druid Animal Oracle. And for those, I pull 3 cards, and those I tend to view as more, for the sky, those are the more intellectual, spiritual elements that might be contributing, something that might be giving you support, an area that you might want to look at in terms of your higher self. And then for the ground, I use the Druid Animal Oracle, and those 3 cards are going to be the things that are related to your groundedness, to your physical self, and what sort of support elements you might be able to pull out there. For me, this is a really introspective spread. I find that I'm very frequently surprised at the answers that I get from it. But it's one that when I really want to dig into something, I tend to go for this one myself. And so that would be my spread number 3. For my wild card item, I didn't bring it in with me today just because I'm not, some things I just don't show on camera. But I have a rose quartz pendulum that I use, and that would be my extra item. I sometimes use that to help me figure out if I want to use a particular deck for something, or if it's a yes/no type question, then I'll go with the pendulum. It's an excellent clarifier sometimes if I'm looking for something more specific. So that one would be the one item that I would pop along. So this is a really awesome tag. I've enjoyed watching a couple of responses so far. I did see Simon from Two Spirit who had posted a response, and Jennifer Ball did as well from Jennifer Ball's Spiritual Garage. So if you are not subscribed to their channels or to Brian Cormack Carr's channel, I'll put all of their information down in the bar below so you could take a look at some of those videos. But I just want to say thanks to Brian for posting a great tag, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of the responses. And I'm looking forward to making more videos and getting to know you guys a little bit better. So if you have any questions for me, any suggestions, just pop them down in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.